Okay, so Baby just got announced for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Just got announced? No, he's been announced, but they just showed him off in the Super Baby 2 showcase that the guys over at the not really the EU, but the representatives for Dragon Ball, I guess at this point, Damascus, Tyrant, and the guest appearance, Apology Man, they came in and they showed off Baby. And I'm not gonna lie, this character has the potential to be some top tier type of stuff. I know in my predictions video for when the trailer came out, I wasn't too sure because I wasn't sure on how he would exactly work, but in this showcase, I'm almost convinced that this guy is going to be a top tier character. Honestly, I'm kind of convinced. All right, let's just go over some of the things that he got, right? Okay, so the first thing we got is his low 2L, and his low 2L is a little bit of an interesting thing. The first hit of the low 2L is a startup of 11 frames, and typically most 2L lows are not 11 frames. Most of them are usually like 6 or 7. So it's a little strange, but it moves forward, which is good. And on top of that, it has a Gatling into it where you can basically do 2L like at rapid fire speed. And the second version of the 2L is a startup of 7 frames, which is weird. I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of a weird thing to put on Baby, but regardless, it's still fine. Okay, next we got his 5L. His 5L is also a bit of a weird kind of button. This guy has some really weird buttons, I'm not gonna lie. The more I look at it, the more he does have a little bit of a weird button, but basically it's a jab that apparently has a bigger hitbox than what it's given credit for visually, and it moves forward. But it's -8, which personally I'm not a fan of, but if the hitbox is bigger than what we give it credit for, then it's probably going to be some type of good and neutral. I'm not exactly sure. This is gonna have to be something that I'm gonna have to see in actual practice, but it doesn't look the worst, right? It's not the worst jab in the game. Next thing we got is his auto combo. It's kind of a standard, well, not really a standard auto combo actually, because the last hit will command grab, which is pretty good because that's setups for tick throws, and tick throws are pretty neat in this game. You don't see them often, but when they do happen, they're really nice. And Apology Man has come up with a ton of tick throw setups that can lead into some really big damage. So him having that is pretty nice. And apparently it's also easy to tick throw off of a lot of assists in the game. Also, a quick note that if you whiff 5LL, this isn't ultra ignorance. So if you whiff that, you are around -40, -42. So try not to mash this in neutral, please. Next up, we got his 2M. His 2M is, I will say it reaches farther than I gave it credit for when I first saw the trailer. It is still kind of a stubby 2M, but it's bigger than most of the Vegetas, but it has more startup than most of the Vegetas, right? And it's -7. So take that for what you will. I think it's not the worst 2M in the game. I think it's honestly kind of decent. Honestly, I think his 2M is pretty decent, considering that what else this character does is pretty insane. So him having that slow 2M and a stubby 2M kind of balances him out. Okay, next up we got his medium. Now his medium is interesting, right? This is potentially the best medium in the game in my opinion, because yes, it is slow, but it has a lot of range. It has a lot of range, right? And on top of that, it's -1. No medium in the game is -1. Nobody's medium in the game is -1, which is kind of insane, I'm not gonna lie. The only caveat to this medium is that it is on block. It has a gap in its block string. If you try to do 5LL and then do medium, it's not gonna work because of how much startup it has, which is a 17 frame startup move. And it's kind of one of those things where you kind of gotta think about the character as a whole, right? We didn't get into his special moves yet, but once you consider his special moves, his medium really isn't that bad. So next up we got his 6M. His 6M is honestly pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. You could probably do a few buttons into 6M on block and you'll end up being plus or neutral, and that's pretty good. It reminds me of 6M, like Apology Man said or Damascus said in the stream. It's very reminiscent to that. Okay, next up we got his 2H. His 2H is interesting. It's very short. I'm not really sure how to feel about this 2H. It's a very short 2H. Apparently the hitbox is a little better than what people give it credit for, or what the visual animation gives it credit for. And according to Apology Man, you have your air options after that, which is a little interesting and weird, but I don't mind it that much, I guess. Like, it's very short, but it still functions like a normal 2H. It goes diagonal up, so it's not that bad, so I'll take it. Next up we got his 5H. His 5H is similar to UI Goku's, except that it has a lot more corner carry. Like, you are going from the East Coast to the West Coast and back if you get hit by this 5H with a re-jump. Pretty standard outside of that. Nothing too crazy outside of it just having a lot of corner carry, which is, again, its biggest plus, but pretty standard in my opinion. Okay, moving on to his air moves, we got his jumping light. And his jumping light is honestly pretty standard. It's just like, it's kind of like Bardock's, but it's not as long, I guess. That's the best way I can describe it. And then we have his jumping medium, which is really good for cross-ups. That's basically 16's jumping medium, except that it's on a good character. So that's honestly really freaking good. And then other aerials that we have is his jumping heavy. His jumping heavy is a little weird since it pushes you upward. This will create definitely some new and interesting combo routes, but usually a air heavy jump in would usually just send your opponent going downwards, but this one hits you upwards, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the community comes up and what the different combo routes are going to be with this new heavy move. Next up we have his Air 2H, which is similar to Beerus's or Cooler's if you guys play those characters or understand the way those characters work. It's basically just another standard version of an Air 2H. It's a little different than most of the cast, but nothing too crazy, but visually it does look amazing. Next up we have his command normal, which I thought was his Ki Blast, which is forward heavy. Now his forward heavy is a little interesting. It's a little weird too, because apparently if you whiff the entire animation, number one, you can't stack it. Number two, if you whiff this entire animation, you will be wide open. And I believe you are around negative 30 to 40, if not maybe a little less, but either way you'll be stuck in that animation, and that's something that you don't want to happen. Also, one other thing to note is that you can't necessarily jail this into vanish. According to Apology Man, that you can technically do it. It's just like a frame one, almost kind of a link thing, right? It's basically just like a just frame. You guys probably don't want to be doing this too much because it's reflectable and it just seems to be not worth it. Not sure why they made the gap so tight where it's basically frame one in order for it to jail into vanish, but would not recommend using this in neutral too much. It seems to be more of a combo extender tool if anything. Next up we have his Ki Blast, which are, first of all, where do I even begin? His Ki Blast basically, as you guys already know, if you shoot the Ki Blast, they come back on whiff. Now apparently if you reflect the Ki Blast, also they will come back, which is really freaking good because it will create constant pressure, and some people do tend to sleep on Ki Blast pressure in this game, which is something that people have to stop doing, because personally in my opinion, when you pressure someone with a Ki Blast, it can bait out a lot of things, and the fact that Baby is revolving around Ki Blast, and especially since they're coming back to create extra pressure, is pretty insane. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Don't sleep on this Ki Blast, I'm telling you. Next up we have his forward Ki Blast, right? His forward Ki Blast is a little interesting. It's basically just one big Ki Blast that just comes right back. But the thing about this is that this Ki Blast can push you out the corner. Not to say that the other ones can't, but this one is ideal if you want to take your opponent out the corner. Similar to how Piccolo will take you out the corner with his orb. It's not the exact same thing, but the function is still the same. You throw something, it takes you out the corner. This leads into basically a 50-50 mix. Apparently, according to Apology Man, it is true 50-50 mix. And it's very hard to stop. His cross-up game is going to be crazy. Your ankles might get broken. And this is what I like to see in a character, to be honest. It's the constant mind games that really do it for me for a lot of characters in Dragon Ball. And the fact that he has this is insane. Next up, we have his beam. His beam seems to be okay. It's around the same speed as S Broly, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Next up, we basically have his down S, or Acid Rain if you guys play Marvel. Basically, all this move does is, well, it does a lot of things. Number one, you can pick between 1S, 2S, and 3S depending on where you want to put the Ki Blast. And this can lead into some really good Oki setups in SKD, because if you do 1S, then they have to hold basically the Ki Blast, right? If you do 3S, then that means that you can just fake somebody out on SKD in the corner, which is really strong. And not to mention that this move will just be good for overall neutral control with Baby. And again, something I love to see in the character is neutral control, because people love to do whatever they want in neutral, and this character will help stop that. Next up, we have his 214S, and this is very, like I said in the breakdown video of the trailer, this is very reminiscent to Yamcha, except that it's a little bit better because if those Ki Blasts, I can come back, which is something that Yamcha just can't do. And honestly, this is a super solid move because number one, this will be great for combos, number one. Number two, this is air invincible, so if they try to super dash you, then that means that you're gonna get clapped. I'm not gonna lie. Try not to super dash at Baby, because a good Baby player will do this exact thing against you. And he gets basically a setup after that, which is amazing for this character. Next up, we have his 236 series, which is basically the dive punch, and it's pretty standard. It's reminiscent of the way Bardock does his 236M. It's safe on block, which is really good. It does a SKD, it has a ground bounce on the EX version. If you do the medium version, you can extend with assist, so it's a pretty standard little thing to have. In case you don't want to end the combo with 2L, this is another option. Okay, so next up we have his 214 series, which is basically the command grab, the Vegito style command grab. It is a little different from Vegito's as far as angles go. His EX version is amazing because that junk goes just about full screen, and it's a frame 1 anti-air. So if you see someone jumping and doing something fake, you can use the EX version and just catch them and then bring them to the other side, and then you can get your combo started. Outside of that, it's a pretty, well, it does do a lot of damage, I will say that. It definitely does do a lot of damage, but outside of that, it's a pretty standard grab. Well, not really standard, but it's nothing to really gawk over, I would say, right? It's just an air-to-air command grab. Vegito has done this before. Nothing too new. But it is nice that Baby has it, because it just adds to his utility about space control and when opponents can do certain things. Okay, now we're down to the meat and potatoes of this character. The fact that he has a 2-2 series, right? Basically, he has a 2-2 light, medium, and heavy, right? Basically just a down-down motion, similar to UI Goku's DP, except that it's on every other button. Basically, he can use the light, medium, and heavy version to call your opponent's dead assist and use it for his own, and he gets A, B, or C assists of that character's assists, which is really good. I'm not gonna lie, you can come up with some crazy setups depending on what character you're using, and if you have really good situational awareness, this will be a character for you that you definitely should consider picking up. Personally, I think you should run him as a mid, but that's a different topic for a different video. And something to note, it will only give you the character that you killed last, right? So if you killed, let's just say, Trunks, and you were using that Trunks assist, but then you kill Gohan next, that means that now you're going to get that Gohan assist instead of that Trunks assist. So whatever Gohan has for his A, B, and C assist, that's what you're stuck with. Which, at the same time, most people in the game have really good assists, and especially that you're not wasting any of your own resources is really neat. Okay, moving on to his level 1s, he has the Final Flash, which is a pretty good move, I will say that. It's nothing too crazy, doesn't do too much damage, but it allows for SKD, so if you play Adult Gohan, this is going to be a guy for you, because basically this does what base Vegeta does, it just makes him do a slide knockdown on level 1, which personally I prefer characters that have this because it can lead into more Oki setups and more unique setups for different characters in the game. Overall, a super solid move, and will definitely be his only DHC animation. Okay, next up we have his level 3. This level 3 is not exactly like the way Spirit Bomb is, because this level 3 stops time in general, whereas all the other Spirit Bombs in the game doesn't. But this level 3 is probably one of the best ones in the game, because you guys gotta understand, right? This level 3, if you are right next to your opponent, which most level 3s from the new DLC characters especially do not do. If you are right next to your opponent, that means that you will just land right in front of them when you do Revenge Death Ball, right? And Revenge Death Ball will be his DHC animation, but more importantly, that means that you can actually go for Oki, which is something that a lot of the Season 3 DLC characters have been lacking. Roshi, I will say, was able to do this type of thing. If you're right next to him, then he's not going to push you full screen. He's just going to slap you with his Kamehameha, and then you get a mix, right? And I'm glad they're continuing this trend with Baby, because the first 2 DLC characters, they made their Okis go full screen when it was kind of not needed, or if you had Kefla, they would put you at a certain range, which kind of sucked. But I'm glad they're taking some creative liberties and realizing, okay, people with good level 3 Okis have to be right next to them, especially if they're in the corner, right? Because you're supposed to get a mix after that, which is understandable. So I'm glad they're taking that with Baby. Next up, we have his Monkey level 3, I guess. Return to Monkey, I believe it's called. And the range on it is very short because it does a lot of damage, I will say. And it's hard to combo into. He has a powered up version and a non-powered up version. The one where he is just the regular monkey, just slamming you to the ground, when we saw in the trailer, that's a non-powered up version. However, the powered up version is where he does a Galley Gun, which is a completely new animation, and it looks amazing. It's definitely one of the better level 3s in this game. And the crazy part is, when you do the powered up version of this level 3, according to Apology Man in Damascus, they're saying that it is the 3rd highest level 3 damaging move in the game, which is really nice. I believe the highest is base Goku's, and I believe the 2nd highest is Team Gohan's, question mark? Not exactly sure, but the fact that it's 3rd ranking highest is really good. The Oki off of it, you don't get too much. It's pretty standard, I guess, for Dragon Ball FighterZ Season 3.5, but it's okay, you can work with it. There are setups that Baby can do, I'm sure, with his Ki Blast that the community will find out, and we're going to be seeing some ankles being just broken by the time this character comes out, which is going to be refreshing. So let's move on to Baby's assist, and this will be the last thing about Baby, right? Baby has his A assist, right? His A assist, which is basically his basic Ki Blast. Ki Blast basically functions like his normal Ki Blast, the way he would be if he was on screen. If he shoots it, the Ki Blast will come back, so this will create some interesting little setups for people. Not sure how viable it's going to be. Ki Blast assists are always kind of hit or miss depending on the person. So if you think that a Ki Blast assist of this nature would be viable to you, then this really could just be your assist, honestly. Personally, me, I don't think it's going to be the craziest thing. However, I can prove it wrong. This is just initial thoughts. I haven't played with the character yet, obviously. But it seems like it's going to be okay, right? Alright, next up on the list is his B assist. Now, his B assist is a little similar to, I guess, Beer's B, where he does the dive downwards. It's interesting because this assist tracks like a C assist, right? So if you shoot your opponent upward, or if your opponent is just up there, he will track and bring them back down, which is something that I am personally excited for, because people tend to jump a lot in Dragon Ball. Not saying they shouldn't, but people just do, right? And something to stop that would normally be C assist. That's why a lot of people thought SSJ C assist for Vegeta was going to be really good, because it just stops people and it's basically an anti-air assist, right? But this does something similar, and it's only a B assist, so the cooldown will be a lot less than C, making B a lot more viable to a lot more people. And this will most likely have really good neutral control. Not saying that A won't, but I think for a lot of people, B will do the job just right for them. Moving on to his final assist, the C Assist Society, which is basically his beam into his down 2L, right, in the air. Nothing too crazy to see here. It's just a beam attack, which, well, I could say that his beam is not that bad because it hits at Gotenks height, but at the same time, personally, I'm not a big fan of the beam C assist. You can get a lot off of it, but personally, I don't think it's necessarily worth it when his B assist is right there. And I think if you have good neutral, I think his B is better, but his C assist could be good for some people. And if you just want to have fun with the C assist, it's right there. Go ahead. It's basically just beam into his down 2L in the air. Okay, now that seems to be it for Baby. Personally, I think Baby's going to be a top tier. I still think he's going to be a top tier character, right? This character has a lot of space control, right? And his normals aren't half bad. And space control is something that a lot of characters don't necessarily always have in Dragon Ball, right? If they do have it, usually they're lacking severely in other areas. But it seems like Baby will do just fine with how much space control he will have with his Ki Blast, the fact that they come back, and the fact that you can't just super dash him if you're in the air. he's gonna be able to control the space really well. And I think that this character is definitely going to be top tier, especially since also the fact that he can mix you. That's one thing that a character needs to have in Dragon Ball. The fact that you can control space and the fact that you can mix someone, right? And his mix seems to be solid from based off of what Damascus Timer and Apology Man have shown. And honestly, I'm very excited to play this character. Like I said, I think this character will definitely be a top tier character, but I could be proven wrong as I stated earlier. But if you guys enjoyed this little breakdown, let me know. I will definitely be playing Baby. Y'all already know the matches are coming. And let me know what else you guys want to see on the channel. And like, share, and subscribe. Catch you guys later. Peace.